Hi, I'm Erika Postadan.
And I'm Brian Postadan.
We've been married for 12 years. I wouldn't say I grew up as a believer. I grew up as a Jehovah's Witness, and the concept of belief, I don't believe is shared. So I grew up in religion. Wouldn't say I believed in Jesus. I knew he was real, but I didn't understand his role. So that's how I was raised, more in a religious environment. After we had June, I wanted our son to be raised with faith. However, I couldn't go back to being a Jehovah's Witness. So there was a time in about the year 2015, I recall wanting to have a relationship with the Lord. I felt I needed more in my life. I felt there was a certain void, and I found a church in Salinas, and I ended up going, and I didn't understand everything, but I felt that that was the right step that I needed to take. And I said yes to Jesus, even though I didn't understand everything. And I got baptized within 2 weeks. I, I just dove right in. I knew that that was what step I needed to take to understand what it was to have a relationship with God.
So when I grew up, it was more of the Catholic faith, and it was the religious rituals of waking up Sunday morning, um, getting ready as a family, and going to church. It was more of the religious sense. So I joined the army, 2000. I was 19 years old, and um, I served as a combat medic. And immediately after training, I was assigned to a unit that deployed all the time. And when I say all the time, it's the 10th Mountain Division. It's the most deployed unit in the U.S. Army. And I deployed to Afghanistan in support of the global war on terrorism. That was obviously due to the September 11th attacks. So while deployed to Afghanistan, I got to see the worst in humanity. While deployed to Afghanistan, I was in the Kunar province. At that point, it was considered one of the most dangerous places in the world. While in Afghanistan, involved the loss of two of my comrades, Robert Cook and Justin Scott. They were both a part of my company. I've worked closely and trained with them throughout the years prior to deploying to Afghanistan. Even on a separate deployment, I was with Robert Cook, deployed to Sinai, Egypt. But during this deployment to Afghanistan, fighting against the global war on terrorism, they were in a weapons cache where a blast went off, and as a result of the blast, they were not able to make it. Um, my unit was working a security force nearby that area, and when I heard of the names that were involved, and knowing how closely they were to me, it really affected me. It really caused a hardened heart, and it really carried throughout my life, even after my service. Um, I had difficulties with maintaining relationships, and I saw that it caused a division with my family. With Erika being married, it really caused that major division where I couldn't be that husband that I should be, and it caused a lot of marital problems where I wasn't really finding joy with my wife, and at home I was more focusing on what's going to give me that next thrill. I even had to drink my sorrows away at times. I would have to, go to the gym just to take out the stress on things that I experienced on anniversary dates of my brothers that had passed away.
Being married with Brian, one, he's a really funny guy, and I found him very attractive. So that's the honeymoon stage where you're like, oh, this guy's great, everything's awesome. Yet once you're married, then the reality starts to come out. I'll never forget a pastor told me, "You are two imperfect people trying to make a marriage work." My upbringing, my dramas or traumas from my childhood, and then Brian dealing with what he went through in war, it was difficult. And I didn't seek the Lord right away into our marriage. When I dived into being a Christian, there was, I would say, hostility or resentment from Brian, because I wanted to do things for the church. I wanted to share my faith, and he was just resisting me. And I was expecting him to be happy about it, but in reality, he was dealing with traumas, and I didn't have the right tools at that time to try to help him with the traumas that he had gone through.
I really did think more of myself in terms of spending my time and devotion to work, to the gym, and my own successes in life, where it really affected Erica and my family. And so when Erica would invite me to church, it was more of me going to church just to support her in that little way of that 1 hour, 2 hour service, and then coming back home to being just me.
When those struggles really came between 2016 and 2017, it was a dark time. And I had a really good friend in the faith, and she's like, "Erica, we need to pray. We need to fast." We really took that call to prayer, but it didn't end there. In 2019, my other friend, who's been a believer for years, she would fast for Brian. It wasn't just from one day, from one year to the next. It was a continuous journey for years of prayer. And I do recall one time I was at church, and I felt disgruntled. I would see families, I would see them with their husbands, their wives, and I'd be like, "Well, why can't I have that? Like, here I am, Lord." And he told me, "You're here for me. Take joy that you are able to worship." And that really changed my mindset, that I needed to trust God in his timing and just continue that journey of being faithful to God.
I really believe that God really does place certain people in your lives, in our lives, in my life. And where I work, a friend of mine, Freddie, he invited me to church. I told Erica about it. She said yes. And that following Sunday, we went to church. And I went in really not expecting anything except to just go in for the service and leave and have our Sunday lunch that we do almost every time, So, but that service was different. I felt the presence of God. I felt that there was just a movement coming down on me, a magnitude of just a feeling overwhelming off the Richter scale. I felt God's presence that much, and I said yes to Jesus, and I found myself, crying hard. It was one of those moments where it is definitely something that I would have never done in front of a group, and definitely not in front of my son. He was there, so that was his, first time seeing me cry. But when the power of God moves into your life, it's gonna happen. And when I gave God just an ounce of faith, he grew that further, where he just overflowed me with just the love that I was yearning for, that I've been wanting for so long. And yes, I've received that through family, through Erica. But when you accept Jesus Christ into your heart, the love of Christ is like no other.
When Brian came to Christ and he said yes to Jesus, I have to say my face, like when I saw him crying, but I could also see that a weight had been lifted off of his shoulders, just of his response to what happened that day. And obviously we're both still growing in our faith in God, and every day we take it one step at a time. Slowly I saw changes in him that were genuine changes that I would not have seen before. Before I would have to maybe force him to go to church, to go for Christmas or Easter. And so it impacted also our life as a family because he was cutting back on duties with his job in order to spend more time with us, not only spiritually, but also reaching out to just do more family activities.
God had never left me nor forsaken me. He was there throughout the years, even through the struggles of what I went through. In combat, He was there, molding me, placing people into my life for a reason. Because He has risen, we have a living hope.